Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Swanson. I'm an athletic therapist and personal trainer and owner of Becoming Resilient Athletic Therapy and Training. Today I'd like to talk about how to improve the length and quality of sleep using the concept of sleep hygiene. And then I will also get into some other natural remedies for sleep that I've used or have found in the research that suggests that it would be helpful. So with this video, my intention is that by the end of it, you understand the impact of sleep deprivation and why getting quality sleep is so important. You learn how to positively impact the quality and length of your sleep, understand how to create a routine to support better sleep, and learn some natural remedies to help. So we've all heard that, getting 8 or 9 hours of sleep is super important, but what we want to know why, like why do we need that amount of sleep, and what are the effects of not getting it? So the effects of sleep deprivation, and while I say deprivation, this could be as few as one night of deprivation or lack of sleep. Obviously, the effects are greater if this is something that becomes a habit or a routine, or your sleep is affected for any length of time. So things like a reduction in cognitive function, poor health, poor physical health, increased accident risk, decreased libido, and poor balance and coordination could have a huge impact not only on those immediate problems, but other aspects of your life. So the idea of sleep hygiene just means cleaning up the habits and routines that you set around sleep that can help improve the length and quality of your sleep. Here are kind of the 4 pillars of a sleep hygiene cleanup. I've kind of narrowed them down to 4 anyway, and then within that we'll talk about what each piece means. So setting a schedule that's consistent is really important. Creating a nighttime routine to set the stage for your sleep. Healthy habits throughout your day are really important too, because they can both positively and negatively affect the quality of sleep you have at night. And then creating an environment that's supportive and restful is really important as well. So the first one, sleep and wake schedules. These are really important because consistency in this sort of sets your body and your brain up to recognize, okay, so if I'm always waking up around 6 o'clock, then I'm always going to get up around 6 o'clock, even without the alarm clock. We've all kind of woken up on the weekend without an alarm clock and wondered, oh, I wonder why I can't sleep past X time or whatever. And it's just because your body has built that habit in. And so your sleep cycle is already sort of regulated to that time. So here are some tips to kind of start creating that sleep and wake cycle. So have a fixed wake up time. And I know this can be pretty difficult when it comes to the weekends. We kind of want to sleep in a little bit more, especially if you have a job that gets you up pretty early. The way I personally do this is I still get up by 6:37, depending on what's going on. And then I will find a way to work from bed, which does kind of go against the idea that you're only supposed to use your bed for sleep, but it's just something that works for me and my partner. So I will get up early, grab myself a cup of coffee, maybe a snack and water if I need, and then just do work or read or whatever from bed. But if you don't have these fixed times, both going to bed and getting up, that fluctuating schedule can really have a negative effect on the quality of sleep. We see this a lot in people who do shift work, where their shift changes from days to evenings to nights. They have a really hard time getting the same amount of quality of sleep, amount and quality of sleep as someone who works a more consistent schedule. This one can be pretty hard for some people. Prioritizing sleep is really important. You don't want to be the person who is leaving the party earlier because your bedtime is usually 10 o'clock. But once you recognize how much more productive you are throughout the day, it becomes a little bit easier to sort of get into that habit and making sure that you are ready to go and in bed at a reasonable time. When you are going to start implementing some of these things, I would suggest making gradual adjustments. If you've ever flown anywhere that's got a big time zone difference, you'll know that jet lag and the different schedule takes quite a bit of time for you to get used to. So if you're going to make switches in your sleep and wake times, I would suggest small adjustments of an hour to max, because even that requires a little bit of catch up. We just here in Manitoba went through daylight savings time where we fall back in the fall, and even that hour difference for us affects people considerably. I know I noticed a difference. My dog noticed a big difference, especially when it came to feeding time. So try and make the adjustments very small and gradual. Naps are okay in moderation. The issue it becomes if you are using them to catch up on a lot of lost sleep, that there's a chance that you kind of set yourself up for a hard time the next night. So making sure that they are short naps, 30 to 45 minutes, and that you don't have any naps that are later in the afternoon too close to your sleep time. So having a nighttime routine is really great. Once you can find what works for you and you make it a habit, then it's just easy to go step by step. When you do that, you kind of create this pathway in your brain, and your brain goes, okay, so when I do X, Y, and Z, it means that I'm getting ready to go to sleep. So I'm going to start winding down. I'm going to start getting into that parasympathetic, that rest and digest state. So the first key would be keeping it consistent. So at first, you're going to have to play around with what things that you want to add or subtract, what works and what doesn't for you. Once you've kind of nailed down what works, I would highly recommend doing the same, whatever it is, 3-4 steps that you do every night. Stay really consistent because your brain likes those patterns that are consistent. Our brain's super efficient, and if it can predict what's going to happen next, you're going to find that, you'll get halfway through and your body starts slowing down and you start getting ready for that sleep. Budget some wind down time. So for one, because you need it for your routine, but also because if you've ever tried to come home from doing a crazy activity and then hop right into bed, you know that it's then going to take you 30, 40 hour, however long of time to kind of wind down slowly, and it'll seem as if that you're having a hard time falling asleep, but it's just because your body sort of needs that time to slow down, to get into a state of relaxation, things like that. So budgeting 30, 40 minutes of time dedicated to this nighttime routine is really important. Reducing light exposure. We've heard about this. People talk about blue light glasses. They talk about, getting off your iPhones or your iPads away from the TV. And the reason why this is our brains are triggered by light. It's supposed to work with the sun, but now in our modern technology, we have so many other things that mimic that light exposure. And when we're exposed to that light, it sends a signal to the brain that says, oh no, it's daytime, so we should be awake. So limiting your exposure, especially in that wind down time of your routine, but a good guideline is an hour before bedtime. We tell this to our kids, so we should be following it ourselves. The other thing is lights in the bedroom. I would highly recommend that you find a way to cover them up, because that exposure, even if it's brief or it's kind of on the other side of the room, counts towards that light exposure that could mess with your circadian rhythm. Relaxation techniques are really important. So this doesn't need to be a full-up meditation, although that can be really helpful. It can be something as simple as, writing down a gratitude list. So sitting down by your bed, writing down 3 things you're grateful for, just to set the tone and relax. If you use a diffuser, diffusing something like lavender or Roman chamomile is really good. The relaxing scents that sort of calm the system down. Lavender specifically, if you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, can be really helpful. And then when all else fails, just simply bringing yourself back to your breath. So if you're laying down in bed and you want to calm yourself down, thinking about counting your inhales and counting your exhales and slowing them down would be really important. It's kind of like counting sheep. For one, it's going to provide a distraction from all the thoughts that could be running around in your brain. I know that for me, a lot of the times if I'm having trouble sleeping, it's because I just can't shut my brain down. But the other thing is, when we focus on our breath and we slow down our breathing, we can kind of turn our body or brain into this rest and digest state, so into your parasympathetic nervous system state. And that will kind of calm everything down and set your body into sleepy time mode. So the other thing that people tend to forget is that the things that we do in our day-to-day life during the afternoon and evening have a huge effect, both positively and negatively, on our sleep cycles. So daytime light exposure, we talked about that circadian rhythm, is really important, especially early in the morning. So you want to make sure that you are exposing yourself to light to let the brain know, okay, now is daytime, this is when we're awake, because your body has to go through that full cycle. And if it doesn't then know when later in the evening to kind of shut things down and slow down. So light exposure during the day is really helpful. You can accomplish this even if it's cloudy outside. So just getting outside and opening up the curtains, regardless of whether or not the sun's actually out, is helpful. But sitting in a room with lights on rather than everything dark. You can also pick up, they've got the sunlights that mimic the same type of UV light that you would be exposed to. They've got them online. You can get them from Costco, whatever you need if you're finding that you're having a hard time getting exposure to that light, especially in the winter months. Alcohol can be a really good way to help yourself fall asleep, but it's not a reliable tool. And I'm not advocating that you drink to fall asleep, but it's not a reliable tool at all, because while it'll help you fall asleep right away, it's going to really decrease the quality of sleep and the length of time that you're sleeping. So it's not a good solution. The other thing that would be good to limit, especially in the late afternoon, is caffeine, as it is a stimulant. So if you have caffeine too late in the day, your system's already kind of wired to stay awake. A lot of students have a really hard time with this because they'll drink caffeine all the way into the afternoon and evenings to make sure that they can study and stay up. And then when it comes time to actually getting sleep, then they have a really hard time. So limiting your caffeine intake at around 1:32 in the afternoon is going to help, so that that caffeine kind of leaves your system in time for you to sleep. Getting a workout or any sort of exercise, fresh air, is really good because it is going to kind of tire the system out later on. So it's one of those things where you'll be energized at the time, and then as your body comes down from it, it'll relax and be a little bit more tired. The thing that I would recommend though is making sure that you're not doing this too late into the evening, again, for that wind down time. So for those of us who have played sports, rec leagues, later at night, we always know that, you've got to take the drive home and then some time to really relax and settle before you can fall asleep. Making sure that you're eating early enough to partially, at least, if not fully, digest food is really important. For one, if your body's too busy digesting, you are going to have a hard time sleeping, but also you're more likely to experience things like indigestion and heartburn if you've eaten and then quickly laid down. I myself, being 8 months pregnant, have to sit up for 45 minutes for sure after I've eaten, because otherwise I get really, really bad heartburn. And it's just because I don't have any room. So I need to make sure that my food is digesting. But this applies to everyone, especially if you have a history of indigestion and heartburn. So the fourth, and I honestly think probably most important tip, is just making sure that you've got a really restful environment. So they do say that you should leave the bedroom for two things: sleep and sex. And the other thing is that you spend a third of your life sleeping. So really making sure that you're focusing in on this if you're having a hard time sleeping is important. So again, we spend a third of our lives in bed. Investing in a quality mattress is really important. For one, because you want it to be supportive. So take the time to do your research and try things out to make sure that it's something that's going to support you and your partner if you've got one. Investing in quality pillows is really good too. And this could be a variety of things. So some people swear by the Cairo pillow. I personally have a water pillow. Some people have no pillow whatsoever. They believe in that. So just find what works for you. And then clean sheets that support the type of sleep you get. So if you're a very hot sleeper, you want to make sure that you get really breathable sheets. If it's really cold in the winter, you might find that you want some flannel, but making sure that you're cleaning them regularly, once or twice a week at the very least. Set a cool and comfortable temperature in your bedroom. So our bodies respond best to sleep when the room is around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. And this is just because when we overheat, our bodies tend to think of that as awake time. Our bodies also have this natural cooling, even though some people don't feel that way when they wake up, but this natural cooling response as you fall asleep, and having a cool temperature in the room that you're sleeping in supports this. Blocking out light. So we talked about that circadian rhythm. Even small lights on your TV can be a factor. So what I do is I make sure that I've got little stickers that really block out the lights from all the appliances. Our alarm clock has a light on it, a cover over it during the evening, and then dark curtains if you are going to bed a little bit earlier, or for some reason you have to sleep during the day. So blackout curtains are really good there. The other thing is sound. Some people find that they sleep really well when they've got some sort of background noise, but you want to find a way to limit things like snoring sounds or other sounds that might wake you up around the house. So whether that be earplugs or, any of those things, you might need to invest in some of those if you've got a loud partner or loud other people in your home. And then this one is probably the hardest one for people to grasp and just let go of. I find, especially in this day and age where we've got serious case of FOMO, where we're worried about missing out on the notification. So your room should really be a no phone zone. Plug the phone in the kitchen or another room, whatever, to charge overnight, and then find another option for an alarm clock, because it's really easy to then stay on your phone up until the point where you're sleeping, or if you get up in the middle of the night, you know, checking the time to see how much sleep you need or you have left is a really easy way to then check your notifications and then spend more time. So that light that you would expose yourself to becomes a little bit more ineffective but effective in keeping you awake, and those notifications tend to send your mind kind of spiraling so that you're overthinking more and not just focusing on getting back to sleep. So highly recommend that you try and find a way to convince yourself to plug the phone in somewhere else and use a real alarm clock rather than your phone. So there are some other natural remedies. So these are all the things before were all things that you could do to optimize your sleep. And I highly recommend you start there. But sometimes you need a little bit of extra help. So here are some natural remedies. I would highly recommend speaking to your doctor before implementing anything, especially a herbal remedy or supplements, because they could have a negative impact if you're taking any sort of other medications or you've got any allergies. So always consult your doctor before trying any of these things. So the first one is L-theanine. It's found in tea leaves. It has the ability to help increase relaxation and lower stress. It also can help people fall asleep more quickly and easily. So having a cup of tea that has some L-theanine in it, really great. Magnolia bark is another one. So it increases time in slow wave sleep and REM sleep, which is really important. Our bodies go through different sleep cycles, and if you can support those sleep cycles, you're more likely to have better quality of sleep. Melatonin is something that your body naturally produces, but sometimes our bodies have a hard time with it, depending on a lot of other factors. But you can take it as a supplement, and it does help strengthen the body's sleep and wake cycles. Some other natural remedies. So magnesium helps the body actually regulate that production of melatonin. It helps with people who have restless leg syndrome, and it helps with reduced anxiety. There is also some research to suggest that it helps with muscle soreness and cramping. So if that's a reason why you are experiencing a lack of sleep, it could be a really good way to kind of tackle both issues. CBD, so they've done a lot of research since it's become a more accepted form of treatment. The nice thing about CBD is that you don't get that high feeling, so people feel a lot more safe taking it. It's been shown to help reduce insomnia symptoms and increase overall amount of sleep, but it also helps with anxiety. So if that's part of the reason why you are lacking in sleep is you can't shut the brain down because you're anxious, this might be a really good option for you. And then valerian root, which is often found in teas. There's actually a David's tea called Mama's Little Helper, which the name is pretty apt, and it's got valerian root in it. It tastes really good. And it's been shown to help people fall asleep more quickly, improve the quality of their sleep, and then reduce that stress and anxiety that might have affected their sleep in the first place. So again, some really great options to try. I highly recommend that you consult your doctor before you start taking any sort of supplement or herbs. I am writing a blog currently that goes into a little bit more depth about these natural sleep remedies for you to try. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the description or visit www.imbecomingresilient.com and go to the blog section there, and then you can find it. So if you have any questions about how you specifically can improve your sleep, don't hesitate to reach out either via email or at the website, and I'd be happy to chat with you about ways that you personally can help improve your sleep. Thanks for watching.